It dominated the news last year and early this year. After reviewing reactions, though, to last year's protests, the Citizen Review Committee has released a set of recommendations on changes to the police response to the protests here in Portland. The report says those changes will help ensure freedom of speech for all Portlanders.
It's a lengthy report. It has some 44 pages in it. Our Jennifer Dowling live now with a breakdown of some of the recommendations from that report. Jennifer?
Good evening. That report came from the Crowd Control and Use of Force Workgroup. It includes recommendations on everything from banning tear gas or CS gas to changing up uniforms and training.
We, surveyed the community in a really tense time.
Officers are taking lawful action.
As protests continued in 2020, the Citizen Review Committee on Crowd Control and Use of Force Workgroup started putting out and collecting surveys to try to put the public's perspective on the protests and police response into words.
This was comprised of community voices.
The workgroup generated recommendations based on what it heard from the public, with a focus on equipment use, de-escalation, and bias in training.
There are real policy solutions to these things, so we want that to be taken seriously.
The report's recommendations included making permanent the existing ban on the use of CS gas by police and extending it to other chemical weapons, also creating a plan to mitigate the risks to public health and the environment if those weapons are used.
That was one big complaint that came out, that it was affecting many bystanders, people who, were not engaged in any kind of criminal activity and were just there to, express their First Amendment rights, were affected by that. And it also affected people in their homes and the houseless community.
It also recommends that officers adopt soft clothes for protest response, opting for ordinary patrol uniforms or clothing that the report says, quote, does not suggest the expectation of violence or combat.
Having ordinary patrol uniforms instead of this paramilitary, uniforms that have all these gadgets and look very threatening, that automatically escalated the situation.
Avalos says recommendations also include an increase in anti-bias training hours with a focus on community review.
Have those things being vetted by actual community members, not just having train police on things that aren't necessarily their expertise or experience.
Avalos says they'll be taking that report and recommendations to the City Council on September 22nd, and the public is welcome to attend. We'll put a link to the full list of those recommendations and the report in this story on our website at KOIN.com. And reporting live in Portland, Jennifer Dowling, KOIN 6 News.